This is an introduction to the tracking programs. All three restaurants in the Dropbox team folder have each one of their tracking SEM, tracking STP, tracking Tampa. Please do not change these file names when you do your closeouts at the end of the night and post to tracking. That macro goes in between the two programs and it has to find exactly the right file names. So if you change these file names, it'll be messed up and it won't work. So please leave these alone. So we're going to open up Tracking Tampa, and it's already open, so never mind. Invoices, look at the sheets across the bottom. Incident record, all records, to go, screw ups, food now, sales and labor, cash, all records document, and water. We're going to go through a few of these. I will start by saying this incident record is for employee documentations, usually for latenesses or absences or other incidents. We're going to go over that in more detail in a different video talking about employee documentation, but this is where you would see the records. And all records has a list of everyone that you've done before. And also this all records document is something that we will discuss later. The other one that we're going to talk about later is the sales and labor. This shows the sales and labor for the entire day, or your most recent day here, but that'll be more detailed discussion that we will go over later. So to begin with, invoices is not an official record in our accounting software at the home office of our bills. This is strictly for manager tracking and researching for anything that you might need in bills that have been posted from the nightly closeouts. As you can see here, on 11/8 was the most recent day. It has all of the invoices automatically posted. Has your scan numbers, your check numbers, your check numbers, the amount that was expensed, if there was a credit, which you don't see too often, but you do see one here, the vendor, and the account, and if any notes were typed in on the closeout. Notice that there are a couple here. So anytime you go for a paid out, so Walmart, here's your paid out, you can tell because it doesn't have a check number. You do want to type in what we bought in there, and that is recorded here so that you can see it later. If you want to go look for things in particular, these filter buttons across the top, these arrows can be used. So let's say we wanted to look at all of our Village Bread invoices and eliminate everything else. You hit that arrow button. It gives everything that is listed in that column is listed alphabetically. So everything that is checked means, of course, they're all checked. So uncheck, select all, slide down to Village Bread because obviously that's near the end. And this eliminates from the list everything except Village Bread. So now you can go backwards. Let's say you had a problem with an invoice, 4431, something's wrong with it. Don't know, you just need to look at it for whatever reason, and that you can now go back to scan 4431, open it up, and be able to reprint it if you needed to and have access to that. You can also double filter. So these are just the Village Breads. We want to see how much we've spent this year. Up here is the new total. We've spent $84,000 with Village Bread in total, but I also want to just narrow it down to say this year. So I'm going to come over to the date on Select All and select just 2019. And there's your new number, 49,000. And it shows every invoice going back to January 2nd of 2019. You can then redo this, cancel that, back to select all, hit OK, and now that is back to average Village Bread, going back to our first one in July 15 of 2017. One thing that is very important, if you are messing around and looking at this and filtering for whatever you want to filter for, notice this important error message. Do not paste invoices if you still have filters on. So if you leave it like this and save it, at the end of the night when we post on the closeout, the new closeout is going to eliminate everything after this, and you're going to lose a bunch of data and it's going to be messed up. So please, if you are using filters to look at things, make sure you go back and hit select all in whatever you were doing, and everything will be okay when you post on the next night. You could also filter for just accounts. What have we spent in, say, small wares, regardless of who the vendor is. There you go. There's all of our small wares purchases. Here, $37,000. Well, what about this year, you might say? $32,000 in small wares this year. Back to getting rid of that. That's how the invoices work. Again, we will talk more about incident records, but just quickly, all records, you can use the same filtering. And to see what has happened with employees, let's pick Yvette. So Yvette's been with us since we've opened back in 2017. So this year, she has had one absence, one lateness, and sent home sick one time this year. So actually not too bad. So you can get back to select all, but we'll get into that in more detail. To-goes. This is a record of errors or problems that we have had with to-go food, typically where a customer calls up with a complaint after they have left the restaurant. Manager will promise that person something, and we're going to record it here, so when they do come back, the next cashier or manager can look this up and find out if it's a legitimate problem. So on number 4th, Carlista called up with a problem with her Cuban. We promised her a Cuban or similar pricing, and then she actually did come back because on November 5th, CT, the manager, took care of this problem. However, Miranda, that had a problem on October 26th, has not come back in yet, and it has not been resolved, because you can see that there. Screw-ups, this is where all of the comps are posted from the daily closeout. We can use this for employee accountability, either good or bad. So here's the staff column, the amount, the comp reasons, employee error or not, and then of course the specific issues. So we could go back to Donnie Crum, one of our cooks. Here's all the comps that were assigned to him. Of course, he shouldn't be responsible for the ones that are don't like, because that means that that's not something that he made a mistake on. But the kitchen errors he should be. So let's take out the kitchen errors by unselect all, kitchen error only. And you can see that since June, $57 worth of kitchen errors, and here was the specific things that happened. And so you could print this just as is and use in an employee review with him, and if there's too much, then that's an issue that needs to be addressed, or very little, then that would be something that is positive, a compliment for him. So same issue as with invoices. Please make sure you put the filters back. Yeah. Sorry. Food Now is something we only do in Seminole. This is a tracking of the delivery service discounts that we use. Sales and labor, again, we will have a more detailed discussion with that in another video. Cash over short, again, is not an official accounting record, but this gives the managers the ability to see over time what our cash over and shorts were for the day. So perhaps if you had a mistake and had a big shortage one day but found it and wanted to see if there was a corresponding overage the next day, this gives you a quick snapshot of our cash management. water we found in both MLK and in Tampa, we had water leakage problems, which resulted in huge bills. So we decided to once a week on Monday mornings actually take a water meeting recording, and this will automatically tell you how much water you use for the week. So if we run into unusual usage, we'll be able to see it much more quickly than we had. So that is an introduction to tracking.